Hi, Mastery Live. I'm really excited to dive into downsizing today. And this is something that we all will have to face at some point in our lives personally. Maybe some of us are getting exposed to it a little sooner than later. So we're going to dive right in. But while you're here, if you have any questions, I am a real estate agent that serves Denver and Northern Colorado and specialize in meeting people where they're at. So if you have any questions about anything I say or real estate at all, please reach out. I'm happy to chat with you and dive into exactly what you need for your unique situation. And today we're talking about something that's near and dear to most of our hearts as we are, in the baby boomer era where they might be thinking about selling that house that you grew up in if you're one of their kids, or maybe you're a baby boomer that's watching on Facebook or YouTube. That is like, do we really need this big of a house? And a lot of people talk about, the interest rates and all of that. We're going to talk about that. We're going to bring the market into play, and we're going to really dial into exactly what you should be looking for. So, the Denver housing market is now creating a unique window of opportunity where, yes, hopefully, if you are one of those older people that is looking to downsize, or maybe you're a younger person that's looking to downsize, that the market's interest rates have corrected a little bit from, the big spike, but they're not nearly what they were. And here's the secret is that we probably will never see those super low interest rates again. So it's always going to probably be a little bit of a, shot to the bank account, the mortgage payment when you're moving from a 4,000 square foot house into a 1,500 square foot patio home, or whatever that looks like for you, whatever downsizing looks like for you. And we need to really be focused on exactly what the strategy should be. Because yes, if you have a 2.5% interest rate, it's going to be higher if you are getting a mortgage. Maybe some of us are lucky enough to have capitalized on the amazing appreciation that we did have as, the COVID years went. And that's a great opportunity. So we're going to talk about all of that, but this unique window is right now, right? As we're moving on. And why do you say that? You say, well, Jeremy, it's harder to sell our house and all of that. But for you as the downsizing, population needing less space, whether that's because kids moved out, because you're sick of cleaning it, no matter what it is, right? We have the opportunity to leverage that, appreciation that we had. A lot of it, a little bit of it may have, gone way up, and then we came back a little correction. That's okay. But if you are moving to a market that's less valuable, or you're staying in the same market, the beauty of the same market is that you're going to benefit on one side or the other of a transaction, right? For instance, if we're talking about 2020 and prices are skyrocketing, people are bidding, all kinds over and everything. Well, as a seller, you're going to benefit. But then as a seller, you got to take that money and put it right back into that same market. And so we did that. But now that, there's not a ton of bidding wars unless the house is perfectly updated, perfectly staged in the perfect location, we have a little less opportunity to get that crazy bidding war. But when you sell that home and we go under contract and find the right buyer, and we use the marketing that we use, with my team and everything to get that sold and get you the most money for that property in this market, then we take it to the next property. Well, now you're going to have a little bargaining power on that side, right? That seller was in the same position you were when you sold your house, because it's right now, right here, same market, same location. And maybe they lost a little bit of equity. So maybe you have the opportunity to make up a little bit on that side. So that's why it is a unique opportunity, and why the current market conditions, yes, may not be the perfect time to sell that house and walk away from that 3% interest rate. But on the other side, you're going to have that opportunity to, maybe get a rate buy down or get a better deal on that property. So that's same market. If it's adjacent market, same market, it's very similar. The next option is if you're moving from, maybe say the Denver or Northern Colorado market into, a Midwest market. Well, they haven't quite appreciated it the same. So maybe you can, where here you had a mortgage, well, maybe there you can get into a home in a community that works for you, everything maybe closer to family, whatever that looks like, and we're ready to rock. So those are the scenarios that present themselves right now that makes this a really good opportunity. So that's, kind of that. So let's talk about where to downsize, right? A lot of people need to step back and look at the lifestyle. And if you are downsizing, I urge you to really think about what it is you're looking for, right? In fact, my own, parents, my mom and stepfather moved to North Carolina. They thought they loved it. They thought they're going to be there forever. Turns out the granddaughters brought them back here or whatever that might be, but they're back. And when they came back, they, had moved to North Carolina and they did kind of that thing and they kind of took advantage of a little bit less of, value in the homes and they bought that. But when they were coming back to a market, well, Denver was no longer in their crosshairs, right? It didn't make sense for their budget and that kind of stuff. So they ended up going to Fort Collins. Now they live on the south side of Fort Collins in a community that works. They're great friends with all their neighbors and everything, and they're doing their thing. My mom has her garden and all of that. The point being is you need to look at your lifestyle and see what you're going to need so that you don't have to make another move, right? We don't want to be morbid here, but that's the honest truth. Unless you're going to, assisted living or, rehab facility or whatever that is, you want to have the opportunity to stay in your home as long as possible. I don't know anybody that's looking to downsize that doesn't go straight into those communities that, maybe that's their thing, that wants to go to those communities. So as we're talking about this, we need to think of, how's the stairs? Is it truly main floor living? I love the main floor living where the bedroom's on the main floor, but the laundry and all of that's in the basement. Well, that is included unless you can afford someone to do your laundry. You need to make sure that all of that is, accessible to you for the, foreseeable future. Yes, you can change things around and use that, but all of that costs money. Next, we want to make sure that it's a community that you're going to be able to thrive in, that you're going to want to be in, that, for some, some people are like, I need walkable, right? I've been in the suburbs for too long. I need to get into a location where I can walk down to the restaurant. I can go, get my groceries over here. I can go shopping over here. Places like that, Cherry Creek, the Highlands, Lohi, Arvada, Old Town, all of those places have become extremely more walkable without having to be in central downtown as you go. So that's also very important. Also companionship. If you do have animals and things like that, and you know that you're going to want that, make sure that, you have an area where, you can at least, easily take them out to go to the bathroom, walks, all of that, or a yard, right? So we need to work through all of that. And that's a major piece of the puzzle. And when we're talking about this, there is multiple different lifestyle needs. There's multiple different, interests and things like that. So talking to someone like me, who's a native that has experience in those places, is important. And the truth is, I want to hear everything that you're looking for, and I will find that community, that suits your needs. I'll maybe show you a couple that you maybe didn't think of. Maybe you're like, nope, this isn't it. That may be what I said, but this isn't it. But that's the kind of agent that you're going to need when that time comes, because the agent that starts with selling your house and doesn't ask you where you're going from here is probably less focused on that, right? And so I want you to hear that piece. The way this goes is, yes, likely we will have to sell that house before we buy another one, but we need to make sure that you're comfortable with what the payment's going to look like. We need to make sure that you're comfortable with where you're going, and we have a plan before we even consider putting your house on the market. Because the last thing I want is you to give up a house and then you're over here and you're like, oh man, I can't afford that payment. I'm on this income or whatever it is. And then we have a problem because now your house is under contract and we haven't started. So the planning ahead is huge. A lot of people are just like, okay, first we need to sell the house and then we have to go here. So we're going to make sure that that is exactly what it looks like. And, if you're interested in my downsizing guide, please comment downsize below. I promise I won't be at your house with a sign. We can work through that and talk about all of these little nuances because I want this move to be perfect. The very worst thing that could happen is for you to call me at some point, or for you to say, hey, mom and dad, call Jeremy, and we get down the road and we get moved in. And then all of a sudden, 6 months later, you're like, this isn't going to work because of XYZ. So we need to step back. Yes, the market may be perfect for you right now, but it might not be. But we need to make sure that this replacement property, this property is going to suit every single one of your needs. You've earned it, right? I always tell my first time home buyers are probably not going to get, the dream home off the bat. And that's really true. However, if we're out here trying to do the thing and we're not making taking every, box and checking it off, well, then we're going to run into issues. So we want to make sure that we have that as we go. So whether it's Cap Hill for the walkability, whether you don't want that, maybe it's, out in Southlands or something where it's, close, kind of suburban, but you have, everything you need, right? That's what we want to get to. And we want to look at all the options. Once we're like, yep, I could probably do that. I could probably do that. It fits my budget. Everything's good. Then we're off to the races. And that's super important. So the next piece is the financial piece, right? This is something that's huge. There's a ton of opportunities as seniors, hopefully, or, anybody really that's been a homeowner for a long time to take advantage of some of the opportunities. If you are a senior who's downsizing, a reverse mortgage could be an option. And there are positives to this. And I will tell you, it is now FHA backed. It's not the simplest mortgage to get into, but for some people, it makes a lot of sense. What is a reverse mortgage? Well, it allows you to utilize your equity while you're living versus paying out. So essentially, instead of you paying a mortgage payment every single month and your principal going down a little bit and taxes and everything being paid, you're actually adding to your mortgage balance a little bit every single year through the guidelines and the FHA mortgage insurance. They can't just kick you out once you've reached the, value. It could go higher. So there is a significant down payment requirement. It depends on your age and all of that. You do have to pay taxes and insurance and those kind of things on the home. So that's an option. And financially, we look at it and we're like, okay, here we go. This is what it is. This is how we can get into that. And hopefully we work in conjunction with a financial planner. If you are getting to the point where, you're talking about retirement or whatever, and you need a financial planner, don't worry, I got a guy. Reach out and let's start putting this into play. Even if you're not ready to downsize yet, let's have those conversations so we know exactly what we can do. So we're looking at this reality. Does it make sense, right? A lot of, the people that are looking to downsize right now, maybe their entire wealth is in their home. Maybe that's kind of their retirement plan is their home. Their home's been paid off. They've worked hard on it and they're taking that. Well, does it make sense to put this all into a home and again, keep it in that home? Maybe not. Maybe it just depends. So having a financial strategy to this as we move forward is absolutely incredible. Maybe, if you're taking a lump sum of it and you still have a little bit left over, maybe there's some investment strategies, safe investment strategies you can look at. And certain, situations, maybe it's looking at a multifamily, ranch style duplex that you can live in one side and create some income on the other. There's multiple opportunities for you to leverage what you have earned without having to, put another mortgage on a house or put a reverse mortgage on a house if you don't want to. However, we need to look at that overall cash flow. What's it going to cost? What are the taxes look like? Do we have a mortgage payment? Do we not? Is there more money in order to leverage and, get another place or whatever that looks like? Let's make those decisions, but let's allow you to lead first and talk about what you need and where we're going. So that's huge. So now let's talk about the actual preparation for sale of this home you've lived in. Now, I don't know if you caught it, but turnkey, well cared for, homes in the right locations, good curb appeal are the ones that are going the fastest. And one of the biggest things when I'm talking to sellers any sellers is, okay, this is kind of what your traditional, buyer is going to be paying in mortgage based on the interest rates. And so you have to take that into account, because that is why some of these improvements are absolutely being required. Because if they're paying that higher mortgage payment, if they're paying that higher interest, maybe they don't have a $5,000 just ready to go for that 30-year-old furnace when it decides to quit. Yes, it's working right now, but that might sink somebody who's a first-time home buyer with limited cash, because they have a $3 or $4 or $5,000 monthly payment. So we're talking about that. So phase one is to look at that. What can we do right now that, could improve our sellability, right? And then it's about decluttering, right? Family photos, pictures, everything makes it really hard to, visualize in the home. So we're going to declutter that. We're going to make sure that's great. I will say it right now, like carpet flooring is something that before it's like, yeah, just put it on the market. We'll give them a flooring credit. Carpet and flooring, if it's not modern, if it's not updated, if it's not clean, if it has some stains, whatever, we want to probably address stuff like that. Maybe a new paint job, interior, some of these things that aren't super expensive, break the bank, but will make the home show as good as possible. And, there's a lot of options, right? Sometimes people are like, well, I only want to find this. If that's the case, maybe we do a buy before you sell program through one of my great lenders. You can buy the home before you sell, and then you can make these adjustments if they're needed to get max dollar for that property that you're vacating. Those are kind of the easy ones. Then, we need to look at, okay, how are we going to market this? Professional staging, cleaning, any updates? Can we get a contractor in there to swap out light fixtures? Does it need a new bathroom update? Whatever it needs, like we want to look at that and talk about return on investment, right? And then phase three is, okay, let's be strategic, right? Let's shop certain neighborhoods. Let's see what's going on. Let's, as the market has cooled off, we've always priced homes based on like what the comps say and all of that. Now we need to at least take into consideration what the other competition is. Because in a given neighborhood, you might have 5 to 10 to 15 homes that are competing. You need to know. So we need to be very strategic about that on pricing ours by looking at some of those, but also, taking those pricing strategy meetings really seriously, especially if we're going to do a buy before you sell, right? And you need to have an absolute vision of what your home's actually worth. So yes, I understand that the home across the street sold for $50,000 more than I'm telling you, but I've adjusted to a brutally honest strategy, right? I have to be brutally honest with you. I have to tell you what the market is. I know what the market is. I know what these buyers are going to come in and ask for. Once we get under contract, I tell my sellers right now, they're going to, beat us up a little bit on the offer price, and they're going to beat us up a lot bit on the inspection unless we take these things. Because the last thing I want to do is say, hey, yeah, we're going to get $500,000 for your house. And, you go out shopping, you buy another house and we get $400,000. That's a big deal, but it's reality in some situations. So brutally honest. And that's, I think, as a homeowner, just understand that agents that are telling you that and they're saying, hey, this is what I think we can get. This is why, this is the data, are much better than, yeah, we can price it for that and we'll just see how it goes. The honest truth is that's not the market you want to be in. That's not the stress you want to put yourself under. So make sure you're doing that as well. And then, we need to just coordinate the timing, right? Where are we going? Are we going to stay here? How are we going to show it? Are you going to be able to get your pets out? This is a very generic thing to think of and very standard. But at the end of the day, we need to make that plan as we go. And you need to understand exactly what that's going to look like. Because, as it looks like, then we're good. So as we've kind of wind this down, I don't know if anyone has any questions on this or anything like that. Feel free to put them in the chat. We're looking to make this more engaging. But again, if you want a seller's downsizing guide, please comment downsize below and I will reach out and give you, a very standard tailored lead generation magnet for you to look at, right? And so you can see, okay, like this is how it's going to be. This is how we're going to, generate buzz on our side. This is how we're going to take, the next steps and do this. So that's exactly what we're going to do. So comment downsize below and we will talk about that. And I want to emphasize that, the things I've said are from a very bird's eye view. If you are interested in talking about strategy, if you're 5 to 10 years out, or maybe next year, or maybe you're ready to go, book a call with me in the link below, and I will certainly have a conversation with you where we can map out an individualized strategy for you to absolutely take advantage of this opportunity to downsize and downsize the right way. I don't want to push you into anything. I don't want to rush you because, like I said, I want this to be your last move. So we need to slow down before we speed up. And so if you have any questions on that, please do that. If you need to send this to, a family member or whatever, I'm happy to serve them. I do have agents across the country, 36 states, 4 different countries actually. And I'm part of a network where we have agents in every single state who can help you with that. So always reach out. Happy to have this conversation, but this is a super niche market that's coming up. And I want to be your guide, your resource to help you prepare for this, to make this transition as good and easy as it can be. The best time to prepare for this is right now. The worst time is when you have to move, you have to make the change because, whatever happened, then it all gets sped up. So right now we do have the benefit of time. So let's take advantage of this. Let's put a plan together. I'm more than happy to walk you through an entire plan so that you know exactly what to do when it's time to do it. Whether it's for you, a family member, or anything in between, I'm here to help. So book a call below. Thanks so much for tuning in to Mile High Mastery Live. And please comment below if you are interested in that downsizing guide that I can send to you. We'll talk soon. Have a good evening.